when we the state who have formed their own convergence cells, which are working towards intervention programs in key
Thank you so much. Way foundations reach in the whole state of families. And I think, but what both of you are talking about now is really showcases that work that you do in the strength-based approach and providing alternatives for after-school curriculum, providing, leisure activities, and just supporting one another through this youth engagement. So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for being here. We have another fantastic speaker with us today, Drusilla Reinhard Blinker from Suriname, who will tell us a bit about your work. But first, I would like to introduce you. Drusilla is the director and youth leader of the SIH Youth Initiative and Quality Assurance Manager at Loving Hands Foundation. Drusilla is a young woman passionate about helping vulnerable people towards a better life. This started out with peer education and has resulted in advocating for her peers and other groups on a high level. Drusilla has a degree in social human studies with a major in psychology from the Atlantic International University. We look very much forward to hearing about your work, and I hand over the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Regina, for that introduction. And thank you very much that I have the opportunity to speak during this side event. You know, it was a great honor for me to get this invitation to be able to be the voice for my peers and especially the youth of Latin America and the Caribbean. So as the presentation says, normalization of substance use on digital platforms and its influence on youth lifestyle choices, right? So I just wanted to add a little bit of data to give you a bit of perspective on social media use amongst youth. And this is a research that has been done, but if you look at the numbers from 2012 and 2018, you see that the numbers of youth using social media almost daily and constantly has increased, and it has been increasing ever since because there have also been a lot of other platforms added since that time. So I want to talk a little bit about youth development. When we talk about youth development, there's like 4 main factors. You could say 5, but I added family and educational environment as one. And then you have the biological factors, the cognitive factors, and the social emotional development. This is something that we need to keep in mind when we take a look at the influence that social media has on the lifestyle choices of youth. You know, because if there's a lot of young people spending their time, maybe half of their time on social media every day, most of the influences, most of the development comes from that platform because all of the information that they get, the access that they have to this, all of that adds to what they know and the choices that they make. So I added a few pictures of just posts that I found scrolling on my Facebook page, you know, of friends. And all of these posts were posted on Facebook by my peers. So people I know personally, just scrolling on Facebook, and then it's mostly promoting these substances and the way it makes them feel, but also just promoting it as in like wanting to sell it. Like if you look at the orange one, it's actually cannabis lace popcorn that they're promoting on Facebook and explaining how good it makes you feel. And they also have like the space lollipops, they have the tobacco, they have a energy drink that has 21% alcohol in it. So the combination to me, you know, personally looking at it would be crazy, but to them, it's like, yeah, you know, that's what I need. And that's how they promote it. And we have like the last picture, you have something in a vial, and that's actually something that they have found to be fluid MDMA, and usually they mix it into their drinks at parties, and they promote this as in something that they need at parties. You know, so one time I asked one of my peers, like, why do you choose to do that? And they said, yeah, I don't want to remember anything the next day. And everyone's like, yeah, that's correct. I don't want to remember anything the next day. And in my mind, I'm like, why? Why would that be something that you want to experience? But it's something that is promoted online as in being cool. You need to have this experience to be cool, and to be able to talk about it, you're going to try it, right? And that is something that to me is very concerning. And there's like no authority actually in place that checks all of this and makes sure that these things, like there needs to be something like some policy in place to make sure that this does not reach the youth, and that the youth especially can't promote this, because all of this is promoted by young people. So parties also promoted on social media, and most of it is catered to the young people. And you have one party that is called like if you translate it, it's called slaughter events, but if you translate it, it's literally nasty events. So you can imagine what those parties entail, you know, and like at the entrance, you have the cups and you choose which cup you want. And that is actually the beginning of a very, very risky roller coaster that a lot of young people are on right now. So if you take a look at music also, it shapes fashion trends, it challenges societal norms, you know, and a lot of youth engage in risky behavior. And if we take a look at forming identity, you know, it helps form identity, and it can be positive because we all know that music, especially, it helps form young people, but it can also have its negative side effects as stated beforehand. So this is me. And if you take a look at the first picture, this is like that was the beginning of my, the start in this field, and peer education. I like, seeing what was happening and also being part of that. And I think I started out when I was like 13 years old. And I had the opportunity to be a youth leader at the first Caribbean Youth Forum and represent my country in that. And after that, I was able to, represent my country and also the Caribbean on various platforms like the Caribbean Youth Forum. And I was also a co-facilitator at the Second Caribbean Youth Forum. And a very important thing for me was that I was part of the experts meeting of the OAS-CCAT in Panama, and I was able to speak on the various programs and initiatives, like intervention initiatives that other young people are doing in the region. And over there, you see me at the Global Task Force meeting with my friend Husni, that I have been, that has also been part of this amazing journey of youth leaders being part of positive development and positive youth engagement. And that is something that we want a lot more. Next slide. It's not coming up. Yes. So SLH Youth Initiative, I am the current director. I don't like saying the director. I help lead the organization because there's a lot of youth volunteering their time and energy in this. And we have the honor of partnering also, like being part of the SAT pilot project in Suriname. And this actually goes hand in hand with a program that we have also developed, the I Am Special program. And that is a combination of counseling and health and life skills lessons. And in 2023, we reached 3 schools because it is a period of 3 to 6 months where we want to like engage with these youth continuously to see that progress. Because if you have like one-off interventions, you can't actually measure the impact that you've had. But by being there for a continuous amount of time helps you see the development, the positive development in the youth, and also identify the issues and help, like through the counseling, help them with that. And we don't only like counsel the youth that have issues, but also the parents and their environment, because a lot of times we only take a look at the youth that have issues, but we forget that their environment has a very great impact on, the behavior they portray. So that is something that we take into account when doing our interventions. So I just wanted to add a lot of pictures for you to see the different programs that we've done. We've had like game sessions where we have youth playing educational games through which they can learn a lot also. We've been part of fairs. We've had like sexual and reproductive health and rights sessions, because that's also a very important part in the development of youth, and it really does go hand in hand with the risk of substance use. So, and we also had a session on what the youth think of legalization of marijuana in our country. Let's go back. Yes, okay. So we also had, like for the first time last year, in November, we had the Engaging Youth in Prevention Curriculum National Training, where we had 2 trainers from the OAS come train 25 youth. And it was a very amazing experience. We had the Ambassador Fauché, that was part of this event at the opening ceremony. And these young people are very eager to get into the field and also, further develop themselves and help in their communities. But as other young people who have been part of like different forums, the First Caribbean Youth Forum, the Second Caribbean Youth Forum, they need the opportunities and the resources to be able to help. A lot of them do have like that drive and that passion, but sometimes not being able to have like the resources or the people to back you, it is very difficult to continue engaging with other youth in your community. So to me, why prevention? I added a little picture of my son there, because it's like something that I've been thinking about recently. So First off, I want to start with the phrase I put at the bottom, and that's Ranantongo. That's a language that we speak in my country, and it is Te imati barba ibrong krab di fiupuru. And it sounds funny, but it translates to when your friend's beard is on fire, take yourself. And that relates to me, like in our country, it relates to prevention, because if you see something happening to someone else, prevent that from happening. So if you see like certain things happening in like other communities in your neighborhood and stuff like that, you need to do something in order to prevent that from happening or like spreading. And why prevention? So I have like this little emotional story. I had to prepare myself mentally. But in January, me, my sister-in-law, and my son got into a car accident. And during this whole scenario, it seemed like a lot of time went by during it, but I think it was like 2 minute stops. A car hit us from the side. And the only thing that I was trying to do throughout the whole car accident was trying to reach my son in the back, but I couldn't. All right. So it was very difficult for me because we were all part of it, but he was sitting in the back, and that's where the car hit us, you know? So when it comes to substance use disorders and substance use issues, like not only the person experiencing that is part of it, you know, the whole family is part of it. We're all a part of that. But, you know, sometimes they're right there and we can't reach them, right? And it's so difficult for like friends and family to be able to experience that, and just being right there, having, you know, that connection, but not being able to reach them. So that is why I feel that prevention is important, because why would you wait until some other issue has developed when you can prevent that from happening? So with that, I want to thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Drusilla, and thank you for a very powerful closing, really showcasing why prevention is important. And sorry, yeah, I don't. Thank you also for showcasing the landscape of where you're at. You know, I'm not that old, but still I'm not being reached by this kind of social media targeting anymore. And so, and we spoke about this yesterday between us, that our social media looks so different. I think you mentioned when you logged on to Snapchat, when you arrived here, you got the notes in, you know, you can buy drugs here, you can get cannabis here, and getting that information to you that just a few years older or decades older wouldn't reach the same. Sorry. No, but it's really interesting as well to see this connection with the internet. I think one of the main sources of interest for myself right now is a new study that came out in Sweden by the National Institute there that showcased they had asked people born 2004 and 2006 where they would turn to look up help or ask for support when it comes to sensitive issues. And that's, you know, body image, sexuality, gender identity, but also, you know, violence in the family, substance use in the family, or among yourself. And the first two answers on all of these were always friends or internet. And I think we're losing a lot here, because the second part of the story is that they looked at, in this case, boys and girls, and which social media they trusted more, the information that came out on the social media. And boys had higher levels, no matter what the social media, if it was Discord or Pinterest or Snapchat, they always trusted the information put out there more. And I think that really showcased this, you know, opportunity, but also the importance of including everybody in this and having a very clear gender perspective when we go through creating social media channels and awareness raising, but also just, you know, supporting one another in those journeys that relate to our bodies or our, you know, substance use or our families and whatnot, so that we can support people better. Because prevention is not only preventing things from happening, but it has this mediating factor. You know, if it's done right, if it's done with the families and the communities, with your peers, if you're strengthening protective factors, you're really also, you know, increasing mental health, achieving school achievement or increasing school achievement, and preventing substance use disorder. So it's really a package that needs to be incorporated in the work that we do also on social media. And that is why we have our next two fantastic speakers who will hopefully offer a little bit of insight as to what you're doing on, to tackle these issues, and within the realm of your work, what kind of services you're offering. And the first speaker right next to me here, Brian Morales, is the Chief of Counter-Narcotics Branch for the U.S. Department of State, working with the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, Office of Global Programs and Policies. Very long. There's a whole list. I'm sure we all know that this is exactly. I'll hand over to you, Brian. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Regina, and thank you very much to UNODC, but especially I want to thank Edna and Drew and also Divya for your powerful testimonies and also just sharing your views of the reality of what youth are facing today. Okay, we all know that substance use is a global threat that requires coordinated international response. We're keenly aware that the drug problem disproportionately affects youth ages 15 to 24, which make up 15% of the global population. Coming from the United States, where we are facing a devastating crisis of overdose deaths, this topic could not be more relevant, more important, and more timely. So thank you, WFAD, for highlighting and making a side event specifically on this issue. Many studies have shown that peers overestimate the amount of drug use that their peers engage in, and this perception of substance use as a social norm, combined with a decrease in perceived risk, has been linked to higher rates of substance use. And the perceived risk of substance use, particularly for marijuana, has unfortunately decreased significantly in the last decade. And this is concerning also given the growing potency and the fact that marijuana remains the most commonly used substance in the United States, specifically, but in other parts of the world as well among youth. Research also shows us that adolescents that spend more time on social media platforms, especially when they see images of people engaged in underage drinking or substance use, are then more likely to use those substances themselves. And this is particularly concerning because adolescence is the development stage, as we all know, which is the most vulnerable to initiating and experimenting with substance use and experiencing long-term consequences. Now, we know preventing drug use is not about promoting fear-driven campaigns or merely about providing statistics. We've come a long way, but it's about fostering a culture of empowerment, resilience, and compassion to address the underlying factors that drive individuals towards substance use. And these risk factors include the normalization of substance use online and in popular media. So what are we doing about this within the US? Well, the US government promotes a sustainable systems approach to drug use prevention that embraces the evidence-based strategies and encourages partnerships and promotes multidisciplinary collaboration and very much adheres to the international standards of drug use prevention that UNODC and WHO have provided us. We support the variety of policies that range across all the domains of prevention: school, family, workplace, community, environmental, media. And it's really the sort of the collective of all of those working in concert that's necessary. And it's not a one-time event. It isn't a sprinkling of prevention at one point. It really has to be infused throughout the continuum, throughout the life of our youth. So it is, I think, an area that requires redoubled effort. And I want to say that there's several initiatives, some that we heard today that we've been very happy to support and very proud to support and see that development. Also with UNODC and our partners, we have developed curriculum. There's a peer review process of that curriculum. We've supported strong families. We've seen the amazing work of Unplugged around the world, conducted evaluations on that. And now we see the exciting development of CHAMPS and REPS as another brick to the architecture of our prevention systems around the world. With Colombo Plan and the Organization of American States, we're very proud for the development of the Engage Youth in Prevention curriculum that was referenced and the youth forums that have been developed around the world. We think that these programs are very important in teaching youth key terminology, introducing drug prevention based strategies, and sparking that lifelong interest in the field of substance use prevention. And I'm very pleased to say that many of the youth that we first meet at these forums continue to remain in this ecosystem of partners and organizations that we work with, like both Drew, who was a youth leader in 2019, and Edna, who presented the Youth Declaration at the forum in 2022, as she mentioned. Our most recent initiative, as we heard from Drew, is with the US-based NGO Students Against Destructive Decisions, which promotes smart decision-making through peer-to-peer education. So we're very excited for that as well. And all of these programs aim to equip youth with the facts about substance use and the skills to think critically, making them better able to recognize and refute misinformation in social media about the effects of substance use or downplaying its negative consequences. These are all great achievements, and yet we need to do more. We started a global coalition. Our Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who was here last week, launched with other foreign ministers a global coalition to address synthetic drug threats specifically. And one of the concerns that we have, of course, is that social media companies are awash with these advertisements, as we're hearing, and targeted specifically to youth. So I know Giovanna is going to speak a little bit more about that, but under the sort of the umbrella of the coalition, there was an event to start convening social media companies to try to make an advancement in forming a partnership to address these advertisements on social media. It was an initial conversation, but I will say what was missing from that conversation was the voice of the youth. So that is stage 2. Is to make sure that with the social media companies and the governments, we have youth represented there at the table, and they are hearing directly from youth what they're receiving from their platforms. So we continue to promote this balanced approach of drug demand reduction for evidence, based on evidence. And I'll say also, I guess in closing, that we do need, I think, a scalable strategy. As I've been discussing also with Edna, Drew, and others this week. We need a scalable strategy, economies of scale of engaging youth, because it is very powerful to, engage 30 here and 40 here, but we need to be engaging in the thousands to really be able to start making, and the thousands in our own countries. So the development of a youth strategy and a youth movement is something that I'd also like to engage our youth leaders on, and the international organizations, governments, civil society on, because we need to figure out how we engage in the adolescent years, group number 1, 14 to 18 years old, what they can do for peer education and leadership and do in that high school setting. The second group, what we do for the university students, 18 to 22, as they become leaders and develop academic degrees in the field or start doing work on their campuses. And what we do for the young professionals from 18 to 30, as now they go into the workforce and need the mentorship of those that have been there before. So being able to kind of move through that continuum of development for our leaders, I think is also important to build that next generation and to also impart some of the knowledge and skills that have been built up by the previous. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's really interesting always to hear the work that you do, because I mean, as a lot of civil societies in this room, we know that one of our main challenges is resources. And what you do is really offer the resources, both the online platforms and the tools, but also these youth forums, and engage people and support them to come and join these youth forums. It's really impressive. So we thank you for all the work that you do and for providing some of these important tools that we can look forward to with champs and reps, but also the engagement of youth into these social media platform discussions. Our last but very much not least speaker is Giovanna Campello, who has more than 20 years of experience with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime in supporting the member states and stakeholders at all levels, improving their drug prevention response, applying and contributing to scientific evidence. Since 2016, she has been leading the prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation section of the UNODC and promoting evidence-based, gender and human rights sensitive practice on drug prevention, treatment, care, and rehabilitation. Thank you so much for being here as well. You can read more about Giovanna online. She has a very impressive CV and is a very impressive person. And thank you so much for being
You
with
can
us.
use your time much more efficiently.
We will email it around.
Thank you, Regina. And there are many advantages at being last to speak, especially because I just have some reflection. And in reality, I will start from what Brian mentioned last. What I'm presenting now is my reflections precisely in preparation of this meeting that Brian was mentioning about, where we met with some social media platform that want to be engaged in promoting prevention, let's say, on substance use. And I was researching a bit what we could do. And the reason why we didn't have youth is that I wanted really to test the waters first and see how serious that could develop. And I'm happy to report that in spite of some of the serious concerns that I will present soon, we will create a space of dialogue later in the year. And I totally expect you and people like you to be invited to enter in that dialogue, and I will show you why. Another good thing, the reason why it's good to be last is that this is how I feel in the context of dialogues in social media. It looks friendly and I am friendly, but I still a dinosaur nonetheless, because it's, research does not move at the pace of social media. This is just a fact. And so, yes, we base ourselves on the standards. The standards are a summary of evidence, but here we have really very basic things. At the time when we did the last standards, which is 2018, there were just some initial evidence on using computer-based delivery of program. Social media was there, but it was still not so new and certainly not as pervasive in the life of people as it is now. And the thing is that for this discussion, I did look, is not that the research hasn't moved hasn't happened since 2018, but there's still very, very little, because to create careful studies, it takes time. And by the time you've done the study, the social media has already changed. And what I will say is that I've seen a marked difference in tone on the work of my colleagues at UNICEF, of WHO, in other international organizations that are concerned with this kind of things as well, in the way they present social media. Before COVID, there was a lot of spoke about opportunities to connect to each other, especially for youth that are more marginalized. Maybe they're disabled, there are difficulties anyway. After COVID, the music changed a lot. And I really started to see emerging science like the one that was presented by my previous panelist and by Regina about the risk of being or connecting through social media, and the connection to poorer sleep, higher levels of anxiety and depression. One good thing from our WHO that I saw, they found evidence of the fact that family remains an important determinant for a number of outcomes in adolescence, including problematic internet use. And I thought there is something there, maybe we can work. The nicest summary I found so far is, in fact, from the Surgeon General. It was published last year, and really it gives very clear summary of the risks of using of being too much on media. And I know that it's difficult to read, and I can you have the reference on top, but I will read just one of these boxes, because what happened is that in parts of the US, the social media penetration went in waves, and this meant that they could see how things were happening happening as social media was arriving in different places. And it really showed that how the rollout of the platform was associated with an increase in depression and anxiety among college-age youth. And so I'm thinking not only about the link that was to substance use directly that you so eloquently presented, but also the link through mental health. And Edna, we are talking about how substances are marketed as a way to cope, right? To cope with a problem that might be caused by the platform in the first place. And what I found very useful for me to think, this is a bit theoretical, but maybe it's a framework that with which we can use. I found it in more than one publication, is how the risk of the use of social media are connected in different ways. So the harmful content, Drusilla very, very eloquently illustrated, and harmful conduct, the youth themselves marketing substances. But this could also be linked, for example, to violence and violent or misogynist content. Of course, the harmful content, but also the harmful contract, which is, I guess they wanted to keep the C's. It's not that clear, but what they mean is the fact that the platforms are designed to keep you on the platform as much as possible, and this takes out time from the development of social and personal skills in real life. So let me, I just put everything on the thing. These are possibilities for prevention that I was thinking about even before hearing you, and you already added to this. There are possibilities around how to use social media and promote healthy development. And here I really want to stimulate more support and research. There are loads of initiatives. None of them are evaluated. None of them we know if we are really managing to prevent drug use or even to just promote mental health. I would be very happy with that. I was very interested about the peer-to-peer thing and the sustainability of the youth movement. Now, the thing about youth is, spoiler for our youth here, is that you don't stay youth very long. You very soon join us, and soon we need to mobilize other youth, right? And this, we need to build that sustainability into the system. We are developing a peer-to-peer program, which at the moment does not have a media component, and I'm already starting to rethink that we need to look into that. We will start piloting at the end of the year, but I'll keep you all posted, and I hope we can connect. Then I was thinking about supporting parents and parenting skills, including technological skills, because I'm fortunate I have my partner is somebody that understands very well IT. But if I was alone and having to deal with the social media use of my daughter and putting limits in place on my own, I would be the dinosaur, remember. Of course, we need to work on preventing adverse childhood experiences and protect children from online violence. This is not our immediate maybe work, but we need to connect to the colleagues that are working on that. And same with supporting children mental health and including advertising and screen time. And that's where we will need the policy. Drusilla, you mentioned policies, and I think that is something that needs to be in the conversation. So I don't think I've added anything to what you have already presented, just my personal thanks for sharing your experiences, your expertise and competence, and hoping to build on that and connect to other youth that, like you, are trying to take action on making the use of social social media and experience that is health promoting as opposed to health degrading, yeah, offer my commitment. I might need to dash out, so I thank you, congratulate you publicly on the podium, but offer my commitment to work hand in hand with you and with anybody from here, and that you can connect us with to move this forward at a possibly less glacial pace that we have been able to do so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Giovanna. It's always enriching to hear you speak. Every time I hear you present, I learn something new. And I think you're really showcasing a great overview here, what we can do to support young people better. And really what you said about connecting not only this multi-stakeholder approach, but also connecting to other areas, you know? How do we ensure that our children are learning nonviolent coping mechanisms? How can we support young people, and especially possibly boys, to learn to set, you know, names to their emotions, to handle their emotions, to have those tools and emotional intellect to not be overcome by this quite misogynist, you know, landscape that is online for a lot of boys, but also, you know, for everyone. But I guess that's the source, and that's where my interest from that study sparked, because seeing as young boys in this particular instance is trusting what they're reading online, we need to focus that particularly, and supporting parents in engaging with technology, and possibly also, I mean, more research is very important. How can we engage young people in that creation of research? You know, if we keep having research stemming from the Western world, from middle-aged men from the Western world, or, you know, how can we make sure that research is contextualized and localized, stemming from the young people in their context, in their countries, in their age group? So I think that's great. And I was just wanting to ask, you know, we started a little bit late, so I'll just give you all one moment to, if you would like to say some last words on what, you know, what is your envisioned way forward? Where do we go from here? I think I'll start with Didi, and then if you'd like to add something.
I think for me and at Fortive, it has always been, we are currently reacting to everything which is happening around us, and there is some point where we stop reacting and we start acting first. Like, we'll have to somewhere take the second step forward too, and that, like all of them has pointed out so far, to a great extent involves in equipping the young people themselves. The biggest of change is going to come when we have enough and more young people start spreading their message on the social media platforms. It starts with telling the young people the right information and equipping them with the right knowledge and skill set, so they can influence their peers better than anybody else.
Thank you, Didi. Edna, would you like to add something?
No, I think Didi just captured everything perfectly. Yeah.
Thank you. Drizella?
Yeah, for me, it's just, you know, it was already mentioned, but having a lot of research, because where I'm from, especially like in the Caribbean, there's very little or like no research, because when I look up data when it comes to certain things, because I need to know the data of stuff, it's not available. So having resources available to do a lot of more research, to be able to have like evidence-based interventions, because a lot of times when organizations don't want to invest in certain interventions when it comes to prevention, it's because there is no data available to prove that it works, right? So if we have that, we can support like all of the programs and the interventions that we're putting together with that data, and actually get more resources to scale that, you know, to broaden that. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to happening. And also just getting more youth in place and actually having that development, like that positive development, to be able to reach more youth. Because if you have more youth who engage in positive development, they reach a lot more. Because sometimes we think that a lot of youth are, you know, engaging in substance use just because it's popular online, but you have a lot of other youth who don't speak up, who actually do not engage in that. So if we have more youth speaking up, you know, it's going to have like this effect where everyone's like, yeah, no, it's not that cool, right? Because there's a lot more people talking about the risk and all of the other positive things that they can do to develop their life skills. So that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Giovanna, would you like to add something?
No, I'm taking notes. Just thanks and congratulations again.
So one very quick thing. So friends around the table, every meeting is an opportunity. So as you provide your contact information to WFAD, please map out your youth networks, connect to these opportunities that are being discussed and the strategy and the networks that will be developed, because we need to mobilize the youth of all countries. And this is a great opportunity to, you are the ambassadors of your countries. So we need you also to connect your youth to these initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. And I have come very unprepared with the with the the closing remarks I have written down. I'll read them. But if you would like the PowerPoints and if you'd like to connect with us, I'll just leave my booklet here open for you. And I think I'm not going to take more of your time officially, but Giovanna has to go, but some of us will be able to stay. So you're most welcome to ask your questions to us and leave your email addresses here if you'd like us to send the PowerPoints or if you want to keep in touch with us. I did make some closing remarks, but I think I'll just say that thank you so much for this discussion. It's so important to highlight the reality that is, the landscape of digitalization and what that, means for us as young people, as adults, as older adults, and just to come together and learn from one another and make sure that young people are at the center of the discussions, because really, I mean, like you said, it moves so quickly that, it's difficult to keep up. So thank you for showing the interest of being here. And thank you for my fantastic panel for being here with me today and with us.
Anytime for you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for the online participants as well. Hopefully we managed to get the sound in and we'll send out recording to those who ask. Thank you.